exactly. Now they're going to take away some of the strong pairing AD carries with Nautilus. There goes the Kai'Sa.
Yep.
And, you know, I hope that KT weren't thinking about running Jhin with this, but that's something that you could remove if you're really worried about that.
Yeah, we saw Jhin not really have the greatest of showings yesterday. We know that, you know, Jhin can work, but yeah, I'm not really sold on it personally.
Yeah, it's kind of a fairly thin AD carry pool that's viable right now with Nautilus, I think, and even the Varus feels like a little bit too risky. I actually like that they just move away from the AD carries entirely and actually take away the Lee Sin here. The Varus will be hovered immediately from KT because they're looking at the tier list, I think, right now in terms of what's available.
Yep.
But, you know, there's not a ton of great synergy here with the Varus, the Set, and the Diana. You know, he's got some decent poke. The lethality can help blow up some of these targets, but if you can catch them, that is.
Well, the Gnar, certainly a pick that does make a lot of sense. Of course, the Set can be flexed absolutely everywhere. I like the fact that the AD carry was locked down here by KT because it does mean that they do get to keep their solo lanes both a secret. Gnar, pretty comfortable though, was banned in our first game and is now going to be locked down for Rich. Certainly one of his comfort picks there towards the top side, and we've seen that Gnar fares very, very well on the current patch.
Yeah, and actually Rich has been playing a ton of Gnar in solo queue, something that we didn't see him play a whole lot of in the spring season. You know, he played a lot of Aatrox when that was still viable. He was playing a lot of Gragas.
Yeah, a lot of Lucian, a lot of GP.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big change for Rich, and I've seen him spamming at solo queue. Okay, Akali going to be Gory's next challenge here. It looks like that is going to be a very, very tough ask here. We'll see what the matchup ends up being. It might be the Set once again, but he's really putting himself out there tonight in terms of the difficulties he's going to face in that lane. As might actually just be the Gwen to go to the top lane once again. So KT taking some pages out of Nongshim's book here in terms of their top lane. The Diana jungle we're going to see once again. But the Ezreal comp feels the more well-rounded yet again. You have a team fighting comp that can front to back. It has explosive power with the Akali. You have the Karma Ezreal lane bottom. You're always going to have Prio on the Drake. It feels like Nongshim, if they can get an early lead, they will just coast stable through the later parts of the game. I think KT are really going to have to rely on Gwen's split pushing power in the late game. And if you fall too far behind, you're not going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm actually really scared for KT looking at this because they saw just how punished you can get for picking this style of top jungle. And it didn't work for Nongshim. I don't know why KT have decided that it's going to work for them. They do have the Set in the mid lane, which is certainly very stable, is certainly going to be able to at least account for some of the physical damage on the top side of the map. But I don't know whether it's necessarily going to be enough, especially with the power level that we've seen the Akali at so far in the LCK. Gory certainly needs to prove himself wielding that particular champion, but we know the potential is certainly there. Peanut on the Udyr now will have the speed advantage around the jungle as well, and I think Ezreal does not really need too much of an introduction.
No.
But now we get to see it paired with the Karma that we've been scared of already.
In another world, you know, we might see Blank actually find some really nice ganks. You know, you get an early advantage, stabilize the mid lane, and then Doran, if he gets even a single kill in this top matchup, if he can get ahead, I mean, then he is one of the best solo laners out there, and he is going to get a massive lead.
Yeah, and we know that he loves to play aggressively with it as well. Actually, really had his wits about him in game one also, so good to see that Doran is sort of living up to that reputation that he had heading into spring and didn't quite get there. Now maybe in summer he is going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Traditional Karma, I believe, locked down here by Kellen. Like it.
It's really...
I think it is, anyway. I think that's the skin.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Looking into the brush.
Yep, they do not know.
Oh, Dredgeline connects. Doran just wandering after him. Gory going to move on over, so Kellen is going to survive for the moment.
And that's why you lock your abilities, not when the game starts, but actually when the first moment in the game happens.
That was an advantage for Nongshim, by the way.
Yes.
It's flash down now for Zeus. Of course, not going to be able to be hex flashing around. We'll probably have to update you on that one. Most of the games, that has been disabled.
Yeah, I think the official ruling in the LEC was for the first week, so I imagine probably most regions will follow suit on that.
If you were watching the LPL until... I know it was, 2 a.m. for us or something like that, when often it finishes by about 10:30. Yeah, Zeus actually flashes over the wall to try and go for this one, but no joy, unfortunately.
Kellen locks in his shield and gets the speed boost and gets out of there. Don't want to just default lock in the normal level 1, because sometimes you might actually die for that. Or at least lose your flash. He doesn't have to use his flash in this case. Talked about these yesterday with, you know, the Ezreal who had to flash because he automatically locked in his Mystic Shot. Yeah, those end up being a thing actually in pro play, and you can do it in your solo queue games if you got that fast Control Q button or Control E, lock it in.
Certainly worth thinking about, as there is the dredge line to connect onto Dr. This time, the Ezreal not going to be flashing, however, is going to be losing a large portion of his health bar. It's going to be up to Kellen to really take a lot of control in this early stage of the laning phase, but it's something that Akama certainly can do.
Yeah, she just helps push this lane so significantly, and she can poke, she can harass, and with an Ezreal together, the amount of clear you have, the amount of poke you have is just, it's almost unmatched. But you can't go this far forward without getting punished necessarily.
Well, I mean, the Inspire Shields there actually got a lot of work done. Noah not able to do enough damage with the Qs just yet. However, Dr. still relatively low.
He has biscuits, and he did go for the 3-pot start, so I think this is still a decent trade for him, but he's only going to have a small window to where he can be trading like this, that eventually he's just going to end up being, you know, out-sustained here. But these are the kind of cues you're going to see just coming through, empowered, sometimes not, from Kellen, non-stop, pushing people away from the wave, zoning out the experience, zoning out some of those CS.
And it's already a bit of a win here for Nongshim as well, because of the greedy start from Dr. He's going to have a tier stacking from the get-go, and that does mean that the Mirror Mana comes online a little bit earlier and things like this. So we'll see whether that is going to effectively scale the build. You wouldn't have minded Cull either. That would have been a kind of cool start. As Noah down to almost 100 health right now. Zeus joining him. Yeah, and this is, I mean, this is what we were talking about already. I feel like this is a lane that just has to be denied. If you see the Karma locked in, take away the Ezreal.
Yeah, and you don't have to... Oh, Peanut.
Yeah, in a little bit of trouble here as the bear just gives Blank a little bit of a love tap, says, nah, mate, I'm going to be taking...
With the prio in bottom, though, like, in moments like this, Atlas, I mean, you just don't... Who cares? Like, oh, yeah, 2 members there. I'm Udyr. I'm going to run past.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
We have bot prio, so do you guys really want to fight for this? And if you're not farming under turret against the Ezreal Karma, you're going to put yourself under threat of death, right? And that's what Zeus and Noah wanted to try, kind of hold the wave there and actually try to trade, because, you know, you have that longsword 3-pot start. You feel like you can trade a little bit, but as we've already seen here, even with the tier start for Ezreal, didn't go for the Doran's Blade. He's just going to outclass you when you have a Karma that can constantly poke. And if it's a good Karma, like Kellen is, I mean, you just have to be diligent. And honestly, like you said, go back to the draft and think about like what you've really left open here. It's scary, and people have been talking about it for a reason.
Exactly right. Snippity Snip, though, as Doran looks for Rich, and Rich is going to go back home. He says, all right, yep, this Gwen character does a lot of damage.
Doran did not take Ignite either this game. He actually took Flash, so if he had Ignite, that's a kill. In this case, though, I personally like the Flash. I'm not a huge fan of Ignite.
I don't mind it. I think, like, adding the extra lane pressure is cool, but you don't necessarily need it to still be valuable.
Yeah. It's nice to see, you know, Doran actually with this matchup here in the early parts really show what Gwen is capable of. He's 12 CS up. We've been focusing a lot on the spot lane because I think the observers are also just like, really? You gave Ezreal Karma? But yeah, Gory meanwhile is having a rough time in the mid lane. And that's just kind of how early game Akali goes.
Certainly is. We saw Lava get a pentakill, though, in a game where he also had a rough early game. So we wouldn't be too worried about it, as Dr. down to about 200. Same can be said for Noah. As Zeus, yeah, not too many opportunities to go in. And one of the reasons why we're talking about this lane being so oppressive is that Zeus is just a meat shield that is getting free hit over and over in this lane. So it is just so difficult for KT to have any presence.
We're 543. Spell Thief's Edge already upgraded. Look at the sport item. Okay, so that's not a record necessarily, but it's probably close.
And it's just a really good clip, right? Yeah. So it just shows that this is exactly what this lane is capable of, and I don't think that you'd really be expecting anything less, because we know how damn strong it is.
Yeah, exactly. Doran up here does not have vision of Peanut. He did not see him come, but with Rich coming forward this much, I think he's got a pretty good read. But, you know, bottom side of the map, once again, if you leave that open because you're roaming, that actually could open up KT to take this Drake, which would be huge. Remember, with all the bot prio, to take a Drake, it almost feels like you're getting away with something you shouldn't be able to at this early stage. They haven't started it, though.
Yep, Dove hasn't actually flashed Face Break it just yet, as Peanut's just going to help move out this mid lane. Now they move into the river to deny any sort of start on this Drake. The reset timing, well, why they were able to get down there and grab themselves the Rift Scuttler, but I think it's smart for KT to recognize that they didn't really have enough time to go for the Drake as well, as Doran does throw out the ulti, misses a couple of those needles, as you can see.
Yeah, if he hits all of those, he might be able to all in, because he still has flash, but...
I mean, I think Rich gets Mega Gnar at that stage, but maybe Doran was just trying to get a bit of a shove. Doesn't have teleport, so wants to make sure the lane's in a decent position.
Yeah, he's going to reset, so that makes sense. It's not on an extremely long cooldown. It's like 80 seconds, I think, so...
Yeah.
Not too bad to toss that one out. And if you end up hitting all of those and Rich tries to trade, you kill him or you force him back, so...
Do you know what I like to call the Needlework ultimate from Gwen?
And what do you like to call it?
Transcendent Needles.
Transcendent Needles?
Because it is just basically Aurelia's ultimate. And I'm glad that it's back in the game, you know? And she plays very similarly to the Aurelia as well. Different enough to make it feel fresh, but I'm glad that mechanic is at least still there. Because I really like Transcendent Blades. I got my first ever pentakill on Aurelia. Back, 400 years ago or something like that.
Good old Aurelia. Peanut coming right over here to the spawn timer on this one. He's got pretty nice control over the jungle this time around. And with the bottom prio, you know that you can actually do this first. Look at the bot prio leading to extreme vision control. They had the fast Veltius as finished, right? Then he goes back, gets the wards twice in the river, so they have full vision there. They have the prio for most of this time. So they get away with this insanely greedy early start. But I mean, in this case, it's not really that greedy. If you can double objective here with that bot prio and the jungle control you have, this is a massive lead for Nongshim.
Yeah.
And KT are a little bit slow to respond.
I mean, they can't, right? It's 2 versus 1 on the bottom side of the map. The Nautilus rotates up way too late, right? And you can see Kellen, he just does a bit of a walk by, babysitting a little bit just to make sure that the definitely not Udyr is able to very comfortably take down Shelly, and does so. So Shelly's Eye now available to be turned into Doran's first item pretty comfortably. And despite the fact that Rich didn't have control of the top side of the map, it didn't matter if you just have more people in the area with the fact that, Kellen was invisible for so long.
No, Peanut actually just going to grab this scuttle as well as soon as it spawns. Like, it feels like Peanut is almost angry about how the last game went. He's got such good control over the jungle this time. He's playing Udyr, which gives him a lot more agency. As once again, Rich under fire here. Doran does have his ultimate.
Yep. He's going to use it with his circle, exactly right.
Oh, I thought he was actually going to commit there.
Yeah, I thought so too. There were a lot of colors going on.
But
the Transcendent Needles hadn't come out just yet.
If he uses it and hits the slow there, and he hits the max Q, like, I don't know if actually Rich can get out of that. It's hard to say. Now he's got the Mega Gnar, so it would have been close. I'm just really excited to see Doran play so far on this champion.
Oh, Rich now, ulti. On cooldown for the moment, not going to be able to use defensively during this particular Mega Gnar cycle. As Doran was very patient, like you were saying, with the ultimate. And another time where there is an engagement opportunity could be one of those for Doran, of course.
Nongshim hovering around this Drake. It's crazy that we're 10 minutes into the game and they haven't taken it because they spent so many resources on the Rift Herald instead, but still they have total control over this area.
Yeah, another reset to come through from Peanut. He'll be able to bear stance his way back onto the Rift, so isn't going to cost them too much pressure on this map. One of certainly the joys of good old Udyr. It was really, we were talking about, caster lore and things that have happened in years gone by. I saw a comment, it was so interesting. It was someone saying, do you think Udyr will ever be out of the meta? And I was just remembering back to the 7 years prior where Udyr was literally never in the meta. And it was just such an interesting thought that someone could think of League of Legends as a place where Udyr is a mainstay.
Well, I mean, that's how we've been thinking about it for a little while here now, and I think the funny thing I thought when I heard that question was maybe when he gets reworked, he'll be out of the meta, which is kind of funny. Yeah. Maybe Riot's rework will actually pull him out of the meta. It hasn't done wonders for Mundo, actually, either so far, but, it's still early days,
Exactly. I mean, Mundo definitely went to the gym a lot, so that's cool. Another 9 to the wall this time, as Doran's going to take a fair bit of damage. Now, throws out those needles, gets a bunch of that health back, as you can see. Leeching Lear doing work right now as Blank. Just a little bit late, unfortunately. And Rich just wandering out casually is going to be enough to get him to safety. Mage Online almost has the Merc Treads that's going to really do wonders for him against this combo.
That's going to be the magic item he really needs. Doran's very close to getting, you know, his first item completed as well, and Rich is just going to be very annoying here. He got his blasting wall, and he's going to back. I think he might have enough money now. Blank, unfortunately, like you said, not fast enough to actually catch and scoop up that kill. As 12 minutes into the game, the Drake has still not been taken. It's like Duckdom and Kellen are really just trying to make sure they hold on to this advantage as long as possible without actually getting a concrete edge in terms of the objective. Gonna crush the Eye of the Herald too.
Yeah, that's gonna be thrown down. Yeah, so utilize the Rift Herald in order to throw it towards the bottom side of the map.
Like
possibly grab some plates here as Duckdom manages to get the money there. Also,
this is actually like the most value you can get out of everything here.
Yeah,
all at
worked
once.
for really well.
But, you know, it obviously slows down your Drake advantage that you're going to have from this first one, but still, they got the Herald, they got all the plate gold from that, they put it into Duckdom, and this is exactly what you want as if you're Nongshim. So, good start here so far.
That tier still stacking up here for Duckdom. Has himself his Sundera, and it is going to be the Manamune that's going to be put together next. Probably not going to have a chance to actually be the Manamune, as the Muramana should be pretty stacked up by the time it is purchased.
Doran did not have enough for the Riftmaker, in fact, so heads back to lane without it.
Ooh, might need Shirley's Eye for that one.
Yeah, you know, going over to the wrong team.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the recipe necessarily. Maybe you need a couple of those particular pieces, as Doran's going to move his circle around, dance around in it for a moment. But Rich is looking pretty comfortable, and we mentioned the value of the Merc Treads, and they are already put together here for the Gnar. Not exactly for the tenacity, but you know, doing double duty with the magic resist feels real good.
Okay, this is
somehow that skill shot missed. That's an odd one, but there is going to be Chains of Corruption. That connects really nicely. As there's the flash on forward, and Noah says absolutely not. Prowler's Claw to come in, and KT answering back on the bottom side. Kellen will make it out, but Duckdom definitely not so lucky.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about here with this last move, but the fact that Zeus walks in blind means that Noah and Zeus are absolutely confident they could take this exchange. The skill shot missed, as you mentioned, at the very beginning of the fight, and then I mean the actual length of the CC when you do end up getting caught by that dredge line is so massive that there's just not much you can do. Prowler's Claw is done, so the lethality damage is just going to blow up an Ezreal so quickly. You don't have time to actually get value out of your
Oh no, teleports come in though, and KT unfortunately just caught with their pants down a little bit. The perfect execution there from Gory. A beautifully executed double kill. And I know, you know, it's a bit redundant, but that's what the ability's called. It's not my fault. As now Doran towards the top side, also dealing with a newly invigorated Rich. Nongshim starting to come alive here in game 2.
Peanut will catch this wave. Totally fine here in the mid lane. And watch this once again. Actually gets the depth charge as well, hits both, and it's just a flash follow here. He's got the Prowler's Claw.
I got really confused. I'm like, how did Noah transform into a Diana for a second? But it didn't actually happen. And,
he's punished.
Yeah, absolutely punished.
Very well played here from Gory, who picks up the double, like you said. Will be able to finish his Riftmaker, actually first in this game.
Yep.
And he's got a very nice start, you know, compared to what we saw from on the Twisted Fate. And this is the type of game I think you want to have selfishly as a pro. Sometimes after a loss like the one we had in game 1, where you play the Akali, you get a double kill, you get ahead, maybe you actually have that carry game.
Yeah, I think there's
redemption.
something mentally about, you know, having a game on a big carry like that after coming off a loss, because you're frustrated, right? You want to be able to try and prove yourself, and it's really hard to do so if you're, you know, parked on Victor or something like that. It doesn't feel like something you have that agency to really get out those feelings, and I have a feeling that Gory got out a bunch of them there on that bottom side of the map while he took down the bottom lane.
And
you know, Riftmaker now completed for Doran though, so you know, KT wanting to try and utilize it, and they didn't fall nearly as far behind as Nongshim did in game number 1, albeit definitely a different composition, but still.
It's definitely a different type of game here that we're going to end up watching, right? Because you have a Karma, so you have a lot of extra shielding that can be provided the entire team. So blowing up targets with this Varus is not going to be easy. You can do it if you catch an Ezreal alone, right? And there's just no way to save him. You have that Prowler's Claw power spike right at that moment. But later on in this game, a lot of these fights are going to be decided, I think, by side lane pressure that Doran sets up, and then you can actually catch some of these members who are trying to rotate over to deal with it, right? Because you have a lot of CC in the set, in the Diana. You have the blow-up potential in those skirmishes when you do force Nongshim to rotate. But if Nongshim control the entire map, which they do right now very well, they can continue to actually have that same level of control. You know, you're not going to ever have that silent pressure. And this keeps happening with Gwyn, sadly. You know, not just in Korea, but elsewhere in the world, where if you don't win lane, if you don't get some successful ganks to put you ahead, the Riftmaker doesn't feel like a power spike, actually. It just feels like, okay, well, I can survive a little bit better, but I'm not actually doing my job at this moment in time.
Looking forward to seeing whether Dorian can actually afford to go towards something like a Nashor's Tooth instead. He's having a better game state than what Rich was dealing with, and he had to go for the Zhonyas, you know, which does give you a little bit more team fight presence, because they were in a position where he didn't really have much choice, right? But the side laning with that Nashor's is so powerful as Flank, taking a fair bit of damage here. Dr. misses another Q, unfortunately. Not able to soften up the Diana anymore.
It's such an interesting topic too, because you know, I feel like there's definitely some consideration to starting Nashor's Tooth, but like you want the Mystic or the Mythic rather first oftentimes, and
yeah, it's like both of the items have so much synergy, but Mythic is just very strong as Kellen has to flash. Dove in with the teleport alongside Doran, but now they have no teleports available. Doctor needs to get his eye in just a little bit as True Shot Barrage goes wide. Gori is now in his shroud, now diving on back, thinks that the work's being done. It's a really nice showstopper though, and the Akali is shut down. The flash on forward from Peanut though, and he's just slapping on as many KT members as he can find. Goes golden as the set goes down. It was almost so cool from Gori, and then he was snatched out of the sky like a football.
He does get taken down, but he does his job, right? He actually absorbs the showstopper, right? That's one of the big CCs, one of the big moments, you know, that you can maybe try to turn a team fight with. And he is basically peeling and preventing anyone from getting on top of Duckdom, who actually sits back and does a massive amount of damage in this team fight. And this is the scary moment when you see an Ezreal just go off in a team fight, hit several Mystic shots. Like when you see a team fight that ends with an Ezreal with a full health bar and a low mana bar, that's when you know something went real bad for the other team. And we're going to watch this once more. Kellen has to flash over early. And you can see Gori actually just using the mobility that Akali has to get over this wall here. Goes on top of Doran. Looks like he's in a rough spot. Actually gets over the wall here, no problem. Gets on top of Doran, who's now isolated. And KT are already backing off. They're already getting out of here. They know this fight's over. See the showstopper back in just for the traded kill, but I think they stay a little bit too long here. And look at Duckdom, just untouched because KT have already decided this fight is over. Well, as soon as Doran got locked down and couldn't actually get anything done over on that flank, he also gave Gori, ironically, an out. Like, he was able to escape because Doran was over there.
Yeah, I actually needed to wait and check the inventory of Gori, because if he had a stopwatch, then maybe that play feels a lot better, but he didn't. He just sort of shuriken backflipped in as a bit of a Leroy Jenkins move. So not exactly what you want to be doing there, but definitely looked cool. Because, you know, you see the fact that you've confirmed that kill, and he's like, well, where are the next people to take down? It was 4 of them, an entire group, and him by himself without Shroud wasn't going to be able to do too much there. But still, it was a fun idea, regardless.
I liked Rich playing for the team, playing passively, just looking for the lockdown on Doran there on the side, instead of actually looking for the big wombo play. Just deciding, okay, if we actually win this exchange, if we actually get this pick, then we win the fight, and KT have to leave, and we get control of the objective, which is great. So, not always Rich's MO, but in this particular case, ends up being nice. Doran has to use his ult here to get the slow to get out. This ends up being wasted. That's kind of unfortunate, but at least he survives.
Yep, he's going to keep himself alive for the moment. To have, you know, items coming through somewhat thick and fast here, as Rich with his Divine Sunder are complete. Now looking for item number 2. See where he does go there. Does look like Sterix or something like that will be coming in next. Peanut with his cool cold claw. Feeling pretty happy about how life is going. And especially, I mean, you just always assume that any Udyr player playing this skin is just happy.
Yes, and that's always the case with me.
Yeah.
I've never been sad playing this skin.
No, absolutely not. I don't think you're allowed to. I think if you are, then you immediately have to
go to therapy or something.
Yeah. No, you need to play Viego into something like an Anivia and press your mist button.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what you need to do. You know, formally is what you would do. You'd have to revert back a patch or 2 or something like that. As now Peanut taking down the Grom. And this is where Nongshim are able to really start pressuring forward. Looks like for the first time here in the LCK, we do have a potential Game 3 on the horizon.
It really feels that way. And I'm not shocked because...
Shroud off.
I think a lot of people, you know, touted Nongshim as being a top team potentially because of their scrim results. We know Gori is a big upgrade over Bay. or at least that was the assumption, right, based on what we've seen so far. And, you know, KT ended up getting such an early lead in that first game that I feel like you have to go back to, okay, well, is Nongshim the better team? They just were playing with one hand tied behind their back in game one. And I think this kind of solidifies that idea is correct. And Nongshim bounced back in a big way here. This time it's Peanut who actually has a little bit of control over the jungle. And Nongshim are really in control of the map. They're going to have this third objective coming online in 90 seconds to fight over. And KT are not in a space where they can really look to side lane pressure with this Gwen. And it's like losing a game with, you know, the Aurelia or the Camille. She plays very similarly to those two champions in terms of what she can offer in team fights, but it's often set up by that side lane pressure. Now, when he's just catching waves on the side, it feels bad, you know? It's a situation where you're like, I wish we drafted something else. If I knew the game was going to go like this, I probably would have wanted to play something else.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because you kind of want to, instead of catching waves, you want to be throwing waves, right? You want to be creating pressure with it instead of reacting to what the enemy's doing. And it does certainly mean that Doran's not able to live up to the potential that we know that the Gwen is capable of. And it does look like the bad news is going to be there. Looks like Zhonya's Hourglass going to be coming through as item number 2. Steric's now completed for Rich. It's going to make him basically teamfight ready on this Nah.
Yeah.
And Force of Nature is also done for Peanut. So booking it around the map, even though it has copped a little bit of a nerf in that regard.
Just a little bit. I'm just glad we're not chem tanking every game, every champion.
Yep.
It was cool for a second, and then it was like, all right, I've seen enough. Well, yeah, still, Udyr is still being viable, actually, after all the changes, even his clear nerf. You know, it's very slight. It's pretty awesome to see.
I actually like Udyr taking the Lucidity Boots and the Force of Nature, though.
Yeah.
It means that you can really utilize the new passive. It's actually kind of cool. Hadn't really thought about it enough. As Doran over here just going to utilize his little Misty Circle in order to lock down that ward. Now, the Cloud Drake is going to be taken down. First Cloud Soul of the LCK thus far.
It feels like Gory's like out for vengeance on Dove. He's teasing him non-stop. He's threatening him. If Dove actually is able to catch Gory there and showstopper him back into the team, that's a totally different story, right? That's actually how you maybe potentially win it. But he's like teasing him, taunting him, and KT can't do anything. They're all grouped up to waste time. Nobody's getting any pressure on the side lanes. This is one of those moments where, you know, Doran could have been elsewhere on the map, actually getting some value, trying to push down the top turret, getting extra side laning done, but instead they group and then don't contest and they walk away. It's starting to feel a little bit like old KT, and by old KT I mean KT from the spring season.
Yeah.
And not the old KT, you know, with score and all that. That's no.
Old KT. Talk about Flash. Yep. He's really changed games.
Back when the Rolster coaster was on the logo, yeah.
And a certain finger, perhaps, as well. Probably one of the best logos ever created. In fact, Wolf has recently tweeted about some of the old iterations of KT, and it's certainly worth a reminisce. I know the collective in the chat, you guys have been certainly doing a lot of nostalgic work. I'm glad that you really took that one to the bank. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, at least the Rolster coasters on the jerseys. You know, when you're going to rebrand, I think maybe you should have that ready beforehand, but at least maybe they're just doing it for me. They're like, well, we'll leave Wolf the coaster.
Yeah, I want to give you guys a bit of a glimpse behind the curtain because Wolf was very passionate when the new logo was announced. He's not really a huge fan of change.
No, I'm definitely not.
He doesn't cope very, very well with it, but this was... yeah, turning it into a Team Rocket Rockstar type situation was not what Wolf wanted.
I'm just not that big into minimalist logos either, so, you know, there's that. But
yeah, true.
I am the biggest hater of change that anyone knows.
Yeah. Certainly top of my list when I think about people that are either nostalgic or not very happy about change. Does mean that we do get to watch a lot of old LCK intro videos when we hang out, so that's fun. But it does mean that we do have to be very careful when teams do decide to change their logo.
I can't wait to be nostalgic about this one. It's going to take, you know, about 3 or 4 more years, and then I'm like, remember when that one was really good, 2021 summer?
Yep.
I already know it's going to be a good one. Well, Doran again, still just catching the waves here, Atlas.
He got into a wall. I mean, he did have a bit of excitement there, thrown around a little bit like a ragdoll. Looks a little bit like a ragdoll with this particular skin as well.
You know, he's got the Zhonyas, which isn't going to help him side lane at all, but I think the fact that he buys it here second is just kind of it's like a symptom of a bigger problem because he knows he can't side lane, but he knows he's probably not going to be able to team fight with this, and he's like, well, this is the best option. Diana's got it as well. Maybe we can have some crazy combo. We can blow some people up. We have the right ult combos if we can hide in a bush or steal some vision control away. Like, you're really just trying to double down on what Gwen is capable of when behind in this game, but... And it's not even that big of a lead, right? I mean, we're talking about a 3,000 gold lead, a 2-kill lead, but it's the Drakes, right? It's the fact that Nongshim have a composition that scales very well and front-to-back team fights very well. And when you can't side lane, Nongshim's like, well, I'm always just going to have Pry. I'm always going to be in the better spot.
Yeah, and even in the side lane, right? Like, Gori versus Doran, who's going to win that battle? I mean, we've already seen Rich actually having a really good time up against Doran anyway. I feel like the ship is starting to get a little bit too far away from the port, right? As Doctorm not able to get any extra damage there onto Blank. He does have the Frozen Heart complete, decided to go for that build. We saw more of Malmortius put together by Teddy yesterday. That was actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
and, there is a lot of magic damage here, so Doctor might consider going for something a little bit more defensive, just because, like, with this current iteration of the Ezreal build, he just does so much mid-game damage anyway. Like, look at that. This is a dude that has a Frozen Heart.
Yeah.
And just took a third of Doran's health bar.
Exactly. I mean, Ezreal, we might have to wait and see how the patch notes go with that one over the next few months, because he's at a pretty strong place. Sunder is at a really nice place. I mean, when you think about the items here, 2 Merc Treads for the tanks in this comp, like, it's really hard for Doran to do anything with this build he's chosen. It looks like he might even try to go into a Void Staff after this, and yeah, I mean, that sounds like real desperation to me.
Well, I mean, he has to, right? Like, it's just, he's too far behind with the build. You do have to try and mitigate some of the magic resist that's coming on in here. Level 16 for the Gnar right now. Peanut, a couple behind at 14, and Gori certainly starting to level up as well.
I feel like we haven't hyped enough the Serpent Fang. You know, it got buffed.
That's true. It actually appeared in the shop here for the LCK. Love it.
It's here. You know, it's against the Karma, so it kind of makes sense. You know, you don't hate it. It's quite solid. I feel like we didn't give it enough hype considering how much we were asking for it.
That's true. I think because Damwon picked it a couple of times at MSI, but have to hold the thought as Circle goes down once again, used defensively, as are the Chains of Corruption and Nongshim. They'll take those ultis to the bank. They were respecting Rich a lot in that moment, so they did have to press some R buttons.
Like, when KT's grouped up as 5 here, they're like, Blank, please have the sickest ultimate ever, or else.
All right, Dredgeline onto Peanut, but he's happy to tank. Able to flash out of the way here. Showstopper onto Rich. He doesn't have much of an R bar because he utilized it before, and that is the piercing arrow to come down onto the Gnar. Doran now goes golden, flashes out as that's the first kill for Gori. Still has a large health bar to work with. But the rest of KT trying to back away. 1 for 1 thus far. Jungle for the top lane, and it does mean that this Cloud Soul an opportunity for Nongshim because they're the ones that do have a smite. Peanut now just trying to allow his health bar to go back up again.
There's the ult coming out from the Ezreal. Peanut just wants to hit that back line.
These piercing arrows do start to hurt, but every one of them that misses is fantastic. Use for Nongshim, and then goes Gori. This time, he does have himself the stopwatches. It is a steal away on the Drake. Manages to take down the Karma as well, but Noctam able to lock down Doran pretty comfortably, and now only 2 members left on the side of KT. Peanut still alive as well. I don't know whether Nongshim should necessarily go towards a Baron. That is where they're stepping.
If they can clear out this vision and get vision on Noah rotating in, I think they can still do it, though. I mean, Duckdom is so insanely fed at this point in time. He's just going to hit his Qs and Ws over and over and over again. Rich is here.
Yeah, put it back in.
They have vision on Noah here as he rotates in. That's all you're really worried about. They get the full Scryer's Bloom. Like, I think this is reasonable.
Yeah, Rich now stacking up that Naba and can do so. It's getting up pretty quickly.
Yeah,
they're holding on to the Baron. This is actually really beautifully done. The timing here with Rich as well, just to make sure that he can stand vigil. The Gnar should be available into this wall.
Here we go.
He crushes on in. The Baron goes down. A couple of kills there. This is a huge overstep for KT. And Nongshim should be bringing us to a game 3.
Yeah, I mean, to continue to be in the game at all feels like an overstep for KT. They had a fantastic team fight. They had their best fight, their one chance around that Drake fight. They prevent the soul from going over, but they still lose the extended fight. They lose the Baron. Beautifully handled by Nongshim to control that vision, and now they're just looking for anything they can find, but this is the end of the game.
I don't know, Peanut just must be so incredibly tasty. Everyone seems to be going way too far in. However, Doran does manage to lock down the Ezreal very comfortably, and that just shows he's tanky if there's, you know, physical damage, but This is a lot of magic damage coming out of Doran, so certainly able to lock him down.
Rich is
Kellen
like,
also
okay.
relatively low as Rich now very close to Mega, and Doran in a bit of trouble now. Okay, he gets thrown back to relative safety. Zeus now making his way in as well. Gori finally going to turn up, and you can cue the yakety sax.
Yeah. I mean, let's not get too excited because that was a, that was a Gwyn and a Set fighting against a, fighting against a Carmen and Udyr. Like, it's like, oh, can they win this one? Like, maybe.
Rich, okay, hops on over, does find Doran. Here we go. We do have some ultis flying forward though, as the needlework is real good. Gori now just says, I am the better. I have the Herald holder or the Rift Maker holder. Both of those to sort out.
He's got a death cap,
However, I think that, if the saxophone's out, you can certainly feel free to start playing it, because that was certainly not the most optimal League of Legends that we saw over that last passage.
But look, he got his Void Staff completed now. Doran did, to be fair. Okay, now this is the fight where actually things, for the first time and the last time for KT, actually went pretty well. The locket value is pretty huge here, too. And look at Blank actually going super deep in. He has Zonias available. He does end up dying for this, but Duckdom is, once he gets to this point, he's the only person who's threatening him is the Dragon, actually. Gets away. And then, KT stay. And it's, not even entirely sure what happens here. Oh, this is just the re-engage, yeah. He does a massive amount of damage, but at the end of the fight, it's Duckdom who just is like, okay, well, I'm going to clean up. You guys can't be here anymore. Not going to happen. Peanut's kind of making the retreat awkward, and they're so desperate to prevent the Drake, and yes, they do, and they do get the kill there. It's actually Varus. No,
880 damage, so Smite still does 20 more damage than that, so it could have been smote away.
But the trade-off is just not worth it, but it was KT, you're just looking for anything you could possibly find. We're watching this again for some reason, too.
Yep. But we do have another team fight as well, as Doran is feeling real strong at this point in time, and he's going to demonstrate that against this Gnar. He goes Gori, he's going to try and do what he can also, but has to get himself all the way out of there. The Shuriken backflip does it in KT. They restabilize with 5 members, and without Rich now is Nongshim. True shot barrage. Doran, of course, able to avoid the damage.
Yep, just was able to prevent that one from coming through. They're a man up right now, KT. If they can have another great engage, and I guess the Void Staff is really helping Doran come online here, suddenly you have a real game on our hands here, actually.
Yeah, we certainly do.
They didn't get the soul. It's a Cloud Soul anyways, so it's not, the most sought after, but
okay.
They keep getting picks like this, and suddenly the whole game's open.
Depth charge now on cooldown, but still.
Peanut gets a blue.
Yep, he's still Udyr, as it turns out. But we do have that Cloud Soul available for Nongshim in a few seconds' time. KT with the availability of denying that one yet again, but it's not the hugest of priority.
Oh, stopping the backs here. Peanut is he's not afraid of anything. This is actually
Doran trying to move that circle around and throws out the needles, but now doesn't have that ulti. And Nongshim should be able to head towards this Drake and lock down the Cloud Soul. Cloud Soul, very, very good for this team. Rich is going to be able to close distance after getting that Gnar off in order to make sure he can get those wallops.
It's a team that already has pretty insane mobility, but you add in that, it makes Akali's repositioning even easier. Udyr is going to be able to zoom around even faster and actually stop backs and look for picks and control that vision. And there's a lot of things that can absolutely go wrong here for Nongshim, but I don't think it's going to be a positioning error. I don't think it's going to be a vision problem. Maybe a bit of a Rich overextension as we saw in this last fight. Yep. But it wasn't enough to get the Drake for them. KT still have a lot of catching up to do.
Also a really good demonstration of just the damage potential that Gwen has. If she can really lock down her target. That's the ulti utilized there onto Peanut just to stop his advance.
Doran is like, oh, the ultimate is an escape, actually. This game.
Certainly worked out. You ain't going to doubt it, as Brambleback is going to get taken here by Duckdom. Noah not going to be able to sneak that one away, although I did like the attempt. And Nongshim now thinking about heading around this Baron to try and lock down some vision before it is back up again in 35 seconds.
Maybe Noah can long-range smite it again. They are not going to have the same amount of control that they had on the previous Baron. As Doran's actually going to get a Banshee's Veil. He really wants to be able to carry this team. I mean, if you go full AP and you have the Void Staff, I mean, you do a lot of damage, actually, even with the magic resistance that's built across the tank line here. I mean, it's not a ton, so it just got upgraded, as you can see from Rich, but I mean, you're trying to be a carry, you're trying to rely on these wombo combos, and then maybe Noah can actually clean up. The scary thing is, if Noah actually oversteps and dies, you just don't have the follow-up damage outside of that initial burst. But they do have the positional advantage here.
Yep. And QSS now completed for Doctor, so he does have some magic resist, which is going to be helping him. Also going to be able to avoid some of the CC that is going to be coming in. Chains of Corruption being a very important one to not get stuck in as this Ezreal.
I mean, if you get hit by Diana Ultimate, if you get hit by Set, if you get hit by an Nautilus Hook, I mean, these things should not happen if you're positioned correctly, but if you get hit by any of that, you've got to get out of jail free card now.
Yep, I do like it actually. Possibility of the QSS flash to avoid a lot of this is Doran throwing around his circle a little bit here as, oh no, Zeus just completely put out of position, and now Rich decides he wants to go in, only finds one with the ultimate. The wallop is fantastic. Blank just trying to go in, trying to do something because he knows they're out of position, but it's not going to be enough. And now Doctor's just fighting front to back here. Doran, can he do it again? As he does find Doctor in the backline, but he goes golden. Doctor deals with the rest of the team, and it's just not quite enough here. Doran was so heroic through so much of this game, but now Nongshim looking to taxi these minions towards the inhibitor turret and take down the Nexus.
I mean, Peanut came and popped his Banshee's Veil right away at the beginning of the fight too, so he didn't even have that. He survived for so long regardless. But it feels like KT Rolster in this second game, a two-man team. It's Doran and Noah just getting the most work done, but Doran's the last to fall. Yeah, Nongshim are bringing us to our first third game here, and I'm not shocked. You know, after that first game, I think a lot of people were very high on KT Rolster, but they had such a massive lead. How do you lose a game like that? In game 3, they're going to have to pick up the pieces.